Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. All the cards from Hearthstone's Rise of Shadows expansion have been revealed, and now it's theory crafting time. In this video, I will be taking a look at Paladin. I will briefly go over the Paladin cards that have been revealed, some of the key neutral cards that have been revealed that have significance for Paladin, and then I have 4 theorycrafted Paladin decks. So, let's take a look at what support is Paladin getting in Rise of Shadows. Looking at these 10 cards, in my mind, they clearly categorize themselves into three distinct groups. There is the Dragon Paladin support, there's the Secret Paladin support, and then there is this Immortal Prelate Paladin support. Of course, there can still be multiple ways to actually build those decks, but roughly 3 types of Paladin decks are getting new support. Of course, there's also the old cards in addition to those, but the new support, Mysterious Blade, it's a pre-nerf Fiery War Axe if you control a secret. 2 mana, potentially 3/2 weapon. Great Secret Paladin support card. Secret Paladin is getting some really nice stuff here, but it's also losing a lot of stuff with Tarim and Call to Arms, for example, so I don't know where the balance is going to lie. Anyway, after Mysterious Blade, there's Call to Adventure, a 3 mana spell. Draw the lowest cost minion from your deck and give it +2/+2. I don't think this is generally worthwhile to include in just about any Paladin deck, just as a cantrip that you can use, get some kind of benefit and get to draw cards. This is specifically to tutor the Immortal Prelate, at least that's how I read the card. Draw your Immortal Prelate, turn it from 1/3 into a 3/5. Okay. Then there's Desperate Measures, Twin Spell, cast a random Paladin secret, 1 mana. So that's essentially 2 secrets in one, but a secret that does not activate Secret Keeper, because this does not make anything of those when you have to play a secret, you have to play things. That doesn't work out. But lots of the new support cards are ones that require you to control a secret. So for that purpose, Desperate Measures, putting that in, it's 2 secrets in 1 card. I think it's actually pretty promising in the end, now that we got to see the whole package and we got to see how much support there is for simply controlling a secret. Then we have the new Paladin legendary minion Nozari, 10 mana 4/12 dragon, Battlecry, restore both heroes to full health. Alright, so if you're struggling a little bit with stabilizing as late as turn 10, which is pretty late, but if you're struggling to stabilize then Nozari can fix you right up. Then there is a new spell, Duel, 5 mana spell, summon a minion from each player's deck, they fight. Pretty unreliable as combo disruption tool, but seeing the overall picture here, I'm really thinking that this is an Immortal Prelate support card. You can use this to summon Immortal Prelate from your deck, a big Immortal Prelate later in the game, and have it just smack down something that your opponent owns. I'm still not sure if it's good enough to see play, but that seems to be the purpose of the card. Then the second Paladin legendary card, Commander Rissa, 3 mana 4/3, your secrets trigger twice. Great Secret Paladin support card. Doesn't work with all secrets, of course. There's stuff like Auto Defense Matrix, gives the minion Divine Shield when it's attacked, and that minion gets 2 Divine Shields, but you can't have 2 Divine Shields, so essentially it doesn't do anything. But for all other purposes, like Noble Sacrifice summons 2 2/1s and so on, then it can do some nice things. It works especially great with this one, Never Surrender, a new Paladin secret. 1 mana secret. When your opponent casts a spell, give your minions +2 health, and any aggro deck loves to get more health for their minions. And these two together, this triggers twice, gives minions +4 health, and suddenly the board becomes almost impossible to remove. Very powerful secret, by the way. But then there's more of this dragon support, Bronze Herald, Paladin class dragon, 3 mana 3/2 dragon, death rattle, add 2 4/4 dragons to your hand. Okay, so mediocre, but it becomes a little bit better in combination with the Dragon Speaker. 5 mana 3/5, Battlecry, give all dragons in your hand +3/+3. So if you have a Bronze Herald that has died, you have those 4/4s. 4 mana 4/4s become 4 mana 7/7s. Which is pretty sweet. Hand buff has traditionally been a really bad mechanic, but I think I'm going to give it one more try, because Dragon Speaker not greatly statted, but not desperately bad either. And the buff is just really big, so I think this is worth giving at least some kind of a try for this mechanic. And finally, there's a Lightforge Blessing, 2 mana, twin spell, give friendly minion lifesteal. This is also, I think this is for Immortal Prelate decks, so you can give your Immortal Prelates lifesteal. Could also work in some kind of a heal paladin, but I have a bit of a hard time seeing what's the win condition of that heal paladin. Although the neutral cards maybe give some insight into what heal paladin's win condition might be, because Archivist Elysiana is a neutral card that some paladin decks might be interested in. 8 mana 7/7, Battlecry, discover 5 cards, replace your deck with 2 copies of each. So this is for decks that want to go to fatigue. And if heal paladin wants to go to fatigue, then it might be interested in running this card. Other neutral cards, there are pretty slim pickings on cards that really seem to fit Paladin very well. But there is the Sunriver Spy, and this is a big one. 2 mana 2/3, Battlecry if you control Secret gain +1/+1. So it's a 2 mana 3/4 if you control Secret, and that's a really big body early on in the game. So very powerful support for aggressive Secret Paladin. And Paladin, like most classes, can also be interested in the new Sludge Belcher, Safeguard. 6 mana 4/5 Taunt, Death Rattle, summon a 0/5 Vault Safe with Taunt. And it's a mech too, so you can magnetize your Ziliax on this and do nice things. With that as the new Paladin set, what kind of decks can we build from these? First of all, just a small reminder that old cards are still in the game. This is actually my current rotation-proof mech control paladin. This doesn't use any new cards. And this is a fine deck. It relies on Kangor's Endless Army, Mechano Eggs. It has a bunch of control tools with equalities, with Shrink Race. Just get some mechs on the board, gets a swing turn with mechs, mech death rattles, gets a big swing with the Kangor's Endless Army. Very fun deck to play. There are 2 existing paladin decks that could see play in the new expansion. One is this one, and the other is just Holy Wrath Shirvallah type of paladin. But that Holy Wrath thing is a little bit scarier with bomb warriors around. So I'm not sure if that one's really going to work out. This kind of control shell could of course also be repurposed a little bit. If you give up on being so intent on that swing turn, you might fit in Archivist Elysiana in this one and try to also go for fatigue. That's kind of an option. I'm not sure if Paladin really has enough removal to go for that very long fatigue plan. But there is Doomsayer, Pyromancers, Equalities, Consecrations, Shrink Race. This core has it all. So you might be able to build something on this. But getting into the new cards, well, Aggro Secret Paladin. There's no Divine Favor, there's no Sankipatarium, there's no Call to Arms. Can the deck survive? The original question I asked when I reviewed what Paladin is losing in the rotation was whether Bellringer Sentry can carry. But Bellringer Sentry doesn't have to be alone anymore. There's Commander Rissa, there's Mysterious Blade, there's Sunriver Spy. There's the new Secret Never Surrender, and there's the 2 secrets in 1 Desperate Measures. So the archetype is getting a lot of support, it can have a very explosive start, but whether it has the longevity to really close out games is the main question about it. When I built this list, my main concern was the 3-drops. I mean, there's Commander Rissa, but I had a lot of trouble finding more 3-drops. I ended up putting Masked Contenders. I also debated whether I should have put in Subject 9 in order to draw my secrets. But there's a lot of stuff here that plays the secrets directly from deck with the Sentries and Masked Contenders, so I decided to give this approach a try. We'll see if it's going to be any good on the release day. Then it's Year of the Dragon and Dragon Paladin. Cathedral Gargoyle never really found its place. It's been available for a year. It hasn't been able to do much. 2 mana 2/2 Divine Shield and Taunt if you're holding on Dragon. A great card. Should be a great card anyway. And now, perhaps finally it can do something. So the way I see Dragon Paladin coming together is that it's going to be a hand buff deck, with dragon speakers. There's a lot of dragons here as well. So it's just trying to survive through the early game. And there are some tools like Fire Tree Witch Doctor gives you some additional spells, and Nightmare Amalgam, Bronze Herald, some 3-drops. Scaleworm can rush into battle on 4. Trucial Champion can do something as well. Consecration for some board clears. As well as Dragonmaw Scorcher, so there's a bunch of stuff that can deal with tokens. And there's also an interesting mech aspect to this deck, because Nightmare Amalgam is dragon and a mech, so you can potentially magnetize Celiacs on that, and then I'm also opting to use some safeguards, and you can magnetize Celiacs on those as well if you have enough time, if they survive. And then after the deck has somehow managed to weave its way through the early game, you start to get the Dragon Speaker value, and then you have these huge dragons, and you just slam down one huge dragon after another and overwhelm the opponent. That's the plan anyway. I have included Nosari in this deck, even though Nosari heals both players to full, because once you're stable and you're just putting these really big dragons on the board, it doesn't really matter that your opponent gets 30 health, you get to 30 health too, and then you have these dragons that punch 10 damage to face at a time or something. That's just a whole lot. This current iteration that I have built, this is not a fatigue deck, even though it has Nosari in it. The plan of this deck is to win the game with those big dragons. But in this case too, there might be some way to repurpose this deck, build it around Archivist Elysiana, go for a more fatigue style approach. But this one doesn't have equalities and all those removal tools, so it need a bit of a more of a rework of this deck. But that sort of dragons removal pieces, Elysiana, I can see that sort of deck possible to build. I just don't think it's going to be very strong. Not even with Nosari healing you to full. Finally, I have been trying to find a way to make Immortal Prelate work. After all, we got a ton of support for it, but to be honest, I think this is too weak. I think this deck doesn't survive long enough, because I'm trying to tutor the Immortal Prelate. So Christology can draw Immortal Prelate before it's buffed. Then there's Call to Adventure, which in this deck, Immortal Prelate is the only 2-drop and there are no 1-drops, so Call to Adventure will always pull Immortal Prelate. Witchwood Piper will always pull Immortal Prelate. Then there's a bunch of ways to buff it. There's even Defender of Argus to give it Taunt. So in theory you're pulling those Immortal Prelates, playing them, buffing them, they fight, they die, they go back to a deck, you tutor them back again. And if you can use that cycle in order to survive, then eventually you will be in a position where you're just playing life-stealing big Immortal Prelates and your opponent doesn't have much that they can do about it. The deck also includes the Undertaker, and it includes Safeguard, so the Undertaker is going to get 2 death rattles, well, possibly 3. Up to 2 Safeguard death rattles and Prelate death rattle. So then you summon some 0/5 taunts on the board when your Undertaker dies. But I have some serious concerns about this deck and how survivability of this one is. But then if you start introducing Doomsayers and cards like that, then you can no longer use Call to Adventure and Witchwood Piper to reliably tutor for the Immortal Prelate. So I'm not sure if the deck is going to be any better if it's done that way. So it is possible that the Immortal Prelate thing just does not work out. You also kind of don't want to put in Immortal Prelate as a separate package into another control deck to avoid fatigue, because then the Archivist Elysiana is simply superior to a not very buffed Immortal Prelate as a fatigue prevention tool. Things are really changing for Paladin. Paladin has been odd Paladin, even Paladin. Sort of very powerful decks built around those Witchwood legendaries. And now with them going to Hall of Fame, the landscape of Paladin is just completely changing. We are getting support for 3 new archetypes, and there are a couple of old archetypes that are still viable. So there are Paladin decks that you can play, definitely, although none of them really look quite as strong as what Paladin has been during Rastakhan's Rumble. I will go through all classes before the cards will be playable, so remember to check back for more. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.